Welcome back to Inside Detroit. It is, people, and it's been an exciting conference here. The 39th Annual Rainbow Push Conference here at McCormick Place. 50 years fighting for civil rights, acknowledging the involvement and the engagement of Reverend Jesse Jackson in changing America. Because there's so much that you brought to us. I tell you, when I think about all your years of work, I think about when you went over there and was able to get the hostage release. I mean, it's been sort of broad-based. Had a chance yesterday to talk with Mr. Calhoun from Montgomery, Alabama.
Greg was born in Detroit, by the way.
He told me he was
born in Detroit, yeah. Greg is the largest African-American grocer in the country. In addition to owning 7 grocery stores in Alabama, one that stands out of my mind besides the one in Tuskegee and in the Brooklyn, Washington edition was that when we were there in 1965, there was a warehouse, well, a hardware store, where the state troopers would gather to organize to do the beating. He bought that store and turned it into a grocery store. It's not the largest in Florida in Selma. I mean, it's just like it has a great symbolic value. But we've had some tremendous business makers. One of them, the president of KFC was here yesterday. We've been losing franchise car dealerships, for example. They made a commitment for 200 new KFC dealerships and a $50 million fund to capitalize them and use black advertising agencies. So that was a big part. A similar thing took place in Walgreens. Their president was here yesterday as well. A big deal is that the USA, GM, and the Treasury is doing an investment offering in IPO, should I say, in a few weeks. And it involves $300 million in fees. And at this point, no blacks involved in that equation. But we will change that because it's USA government, GM, for example. And part of the deal is we have people who qualify to have that level. It's not hard to sell USA GM stock in this revival. The largest new market for GM Buick, for example, is China. They're really shifting offshore in a major way. But with all of their revival and their growth, there's not a single GM dealership in Chicago. And there's no black advertising agency record at this point. These are the kind of fights we fight.
Not one in the city of Chicago?
Not one. And only Nigeria and Brazil and New York have more African Americans than Chicago. It doesn't stand to reason. And we had the African American partner here in 1966, Al Johnson Oldsmobile and Al Johnson Cadillac. So we have to revive our focus on economic development, getting our share of franchises, our share of dealerships, our share of supply contracts, and our share of financial services. And that's a high use of African American advertising agencies. It's a big part of our push today.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters, one of the persons, in addition to you and Sheila Jackson Lee, Byron Arcolate was talking about was Congresswoman Maxine Waters as they fight their fight for the appropriateness of the way that things are being done in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's the executive order where these government agencies must include people of color and women. It's called Title VI, and that is not done. We're looking right now at unenforced and unfunded civil rights. So you could, Clarence Thomas over EEOC, you mean to kill an agency. That is a tactical shoot. Or you have an agency that's not funded, so you have an environmental protection agency that becomes corrupted, and therefore there's petroleum can be done in the gut. You have workplace safety laws, and it's violated, therefore you have the workers killed in West Virginia. You have government banking oversight that is not dealt with, and therefore we have the taking of our home, living about $4 million this year. So fighting to enforce and fund civil rights law is a big deal. The one thing we're not having a law, like an Indian treaty, not having it enforced, not having it funded. By extension, we're going to the Gulf, we're going down there weeks, because we have fishing here, those who ship oysters and those who fish who've been very hard that you've not seen much of them on TV. But they're there in big numbers. And so far, they cannot get their claim. The reason I want the president to declare receivership on BP is unless you know how much oil is flowing, you will not know how much damage is to demand of them. On the other hand, if you don't know the oil flow and don't control the claims, you don't know how much damage has been done, nor do you know how to help those who are being damaged. Kind of like those are the bookends, right? On one hand, we must know, we don't know how long it's going to take to stop the flow, but we ought to know what the flow is. We were told 5,000 barrels, now it's up to 50,000. And scientists who said it was 30 to 40,000 were dismissed as kooks, but they were accurate, and BP was lying. So, this is a big deal for us. So we're going there to stand with these fishermen, really having a claims rather. Many of them never got their claims out the truth, so they have a certain kind of paperwork. You know, many poor people don't keep standard books. If you are a fisherman and you're selling minerals and you're sucking oysters and you're driving your pickup truck, you may keep your books and your piece bad. You may not have a computer system. But everybody knows that you are a business guy and that you're not getting business. So BP is working on schemes to make people ineligible to get their claims. We must fight to make people eligible to get their claims and save their fisher boats and their houses and their businesses.
You know, when I spoke with the representatives from in the industry from the Gulf Coast, what they said was that BP is bringing in workers from other places to do the work, that the locals are not being afforded an opportunity to do the work.
Same thing happened with Katrina. There were African Americans in New Orleans who could not get the contract to pick up the debris and from their own house. We were bringing in Mexicans from across the border to exploit them. Now, let me be clear that it was not the Mexicans' fault. They were being imported by the construction companies, those who got the contracts. It's like worker manipulation using one requirement to another. It's like using slave labor like an organized labor. You bring somebody across the border, they are a guest worker. Because they're a guest worker and be deported in a moment, they are afraid to fight for their rights. They're glad to have the job. They will take all kinds of abuse, sometimes sexual abuse, sometimes wage abuse. I saw them living 10 and 12 to a room on bunk beds. At least they have a job different than living across the border. So you see a lot of workplace manipulation. So all those folks in Arizona by Mexicans coming across the border, many of them get sent for by employers in the construction industry, sent for by employers in the hotel industry, sent for. Then once they get here in a kind of indentured service status where if you're a guest worker, that means that you stay at the whims of the employer. So if you are raped, if you complain about it, you go back across the border. Don't get your fair wages, you complain, you're back across the border. So this is another scheme of worker exploitation, and we want to be in the Gulf with these workers and fight for their right to get their claims and not to have outside people take their jobs.